Hi, yeah, it's Xavier. Welcome to a bonsai retreat. And hey, I don't do those myths type videos that often, or your top 10 secrets to how to find a decent tree or anything like that.
Secret? What secret?
But you know what? It's not so much a myth, but there is definitely a big myth, misapprehension, I don't know, confusion perhaps, about air layers. And you'll often hear, well, I look back, I say it a lot, quickest, best, easiest way to get a decent tree that already looks mature is of course to take an air layer. And hey, we look at this one, Japanese maple. That was an air layer. Took it, I don't know, back in 2014 maybe, and it looks brilliant. I'm very pleased with it. Hasn't grown as much as I'd like it to this year, but you know what? For an air layer, i.e., oh, someone already disagrees. Let's find out what one of you subscribers has to say. Hello, yellow-eyed bonsai? What do you mean I'm talking a load of... Anyway, if you want to hear more about this myth of air layers and exactly what that is, and also have a look at 5 other Japanese maple air layers and their progress, then I suggest you keep watching, because there's a lot to do and a lot to talk about. Now, there's no doubt that air layers is probably the easiest and best way to get material that can be transformed into bonsai. But and this one is actually the second ever air layer I took, and I took it off a 6-foot Katsura, and that Katsura has actually featured in a number of videos, including an incredible air layer experiment that was inspired by an idea that Yellow of growing bonsai gave me. And certainly if you want to see more about Katsura, Japanese maple, and how those 2 air layers are getting on, you just need to hang on, because hey, I've got 5 magnificent Japanese maple air layers to work through in this sort of midsummer period, and demonstrate what this great myth really is. But before we go any further, I've talked about this second ever air layer I've taken, but should we get this myth out of the way by showing you my first ever air layer? Of course we will, because that's what I've written in the notes.
You are so predictable.
In fact, my first ever air layer, which was taken in 2015, was this common cherry or prunus. And it was a big tree growing in my backyard, and I'd just seen an article about air layers, or I think I'd watched one of the greats on YouTube doing air layers, and I thought I'm going to give that a go, because I want instant bonsai. And they said on that video the quickest and best way to get a bonsai is to just air layer a branch. So I thought, I want a bonsai. And this was the product, and there are several videos on this, so rather than labour the point, where are we now, 2024? So this is 9 years old. Go on, hands up. Anyone here who actually thinks this is a finished bonsai? No, Zav, it's not. No, I mean, I'm really proud of it because it's my first successful air layer, and I can see a future for it. And in fact, I do think it is going to be an interesting, not a classic, but an interesting tree. And it produces cherries, and I've eaten them. In fact, there's a video all about me eating the cherries from this way back in 2022. This tells you the truth. This tells you the reality of this bonsai myth. If you want great bonsai, you want to do it quickly, grab some air layers. And that's just simply not true. I don't think I've got a single air layer in my collection that has produced a tree which I would call a bonsai material in anything less than 3 to 4 years. And I'll demonstrate what I mean by that by showing you some of the ones that I took in 2022 and 2023, and hey, we'll see where they're at now. Now, before I go further on this, I will say, if you are very experienced, if you've got the right feeder material, either you've got one of those branches or something on a tree, and if you get the air layer at just the right point, and if the roots that are produced from it are nice and radial, and if the angle's quite right, and if you've got the rest of the branches growing, then yes, you can put the air layer on in, say, late spring. 8 to 10 weeks later, you can take it off, you can put it in a pot, and it can be a bonsai pot, and guess what? It will probably look like a really decent bonsai. But in my experience, as a hobbyist, they're few and far between, and there's lots of things that normally go wrong before then. So let's start talking about them, shall we? In May 2022, when my channel was in its 3-month infancy, I think I had 48 subscribers, and I was pleased as punch. I can remember those days. But I decided, because I had such a great neighbour, that I would take some air layers off her Japanese maple tree, and this is one of them. Now, there's been a series of videos over the last sort of 2 years showing progress, but I think these will demonstrate amply why this myth about instant bonsai is so easy to disprove, because as I say, the airlayer was put on in the May of 2022. I put on 5, and sure enough, in fact, I don't understand. Bearing in mind I was a YouTube channel just starting, does anyone want to hazard a guess as to why on earth I didn't actually video it?
You are stupid.
Don't get it. I think, mind you, I was halfway up a 20-foot tree, struggling to do anything, so that could be one of the reasons. We then come back to August, I believe, or maybe even late August, early September, and I had a look, and there's a little short which shows me in great glee and excitement as I see I have roots. So I separate them, and yep, there's a great video about me doing the separation, and I decide then, hey, do you know what? I've seen Peter Chan, who is a bonsai guru, putting all his air layers into sphagnum moss. So I think, yeah, why not try that?
Sounds like you regret that now.
Despite the fact that my usual method has worked well, I decided to do that because I wanted to get loads of explosive roots. Anyway, they went to sphagnum moss, they went off into the greenhouse, and do you know what? Guess what? There's a video all about the results, and it's pretty appalling. Needless to say, whether I'd done that or not, we have to go to the following year before we can have a look, and I pop these up. So we're a year into the process, and that's probably the first thing I'll say to you. From putting your air layer on to actually getting it into a decent pot and allowing it to produce roots, for most of us at our level, we're a year. And that's before we've even started dealing with some of the big branches that we haven't even attempted to remove or air layer again, I don't know. Which probably leads on nicely to my big #1 tip to try and make that myth come true. And funny old, I did a video about that as well. Make sure when you select the place for your air layer, it is the absolute optimum place for your new set of roots to come from. This great ugly monstrosity, it was way up in the tree, and I was just excited about just trying to get an air layer on. We've got this great big long length here, and I put the air layer, it's all the way down here. So we've got this great big length here, which is no good to anybody, when the reality is if I was going to do it, I could have either put the air layer on an angle here, and so try and create some interest. So what I'm saying is, if you want to try and make that myth come true, think really hard about the actual site of your air layer and the actual site and the plane that you actually want the roots to come out from. Because this is an example of, wow, I mean, this was taken the same period as that one you've just seen, and it's great, loads of healthy roots in there. But where are we now? Why am I asking you? I know exactly where we are. We're in the sort of second week of August 24, so two and a half years since, actually, probably just under 2.5 years since I started this process with these. And yeah, look, lovely great growth, and we're going to deal with this in a minute, but because I sited it badly, I've extended how long it's going to take me to make this to a bonsai, if I ever achieve that.
You will make good firewood.
So I think the first thing I'm saying is that minimum is a year if you've got a reasonable set of roots come out of the air layer, but you could be looking at up to 2 to 3 years before you get a good root base, a root spread that you're happy with, before you can really start looking at the rest of the tree. Because as you know, we build the bonsai from the bottom, and we really want to get that root structure sorted before we start hacking around at the top. Now, I made mention of Katsura airlayer experiment that I did as a result of advice from Yellow of Growing Bonsai, and this is one of them. And he saw this upright tree, and there's a picture probably up right now. Absolutely ugly. The roots were atrocious, and I'll say right now, the root base or the base of it never ever sent any new shoots, so I didn't get a third tree from it. But he did point out where there was a potential cascade, and at the moment here it is, and loads of leaves on it, and brilliant. And this is an example of where if you put the airlayer in the correct place, you can reduce the time just a little bit. So this was put on in May 2023, separated in the late September time or sometime in September, and then immediately put into a pond basket, and it's been pretty well like that. You know, got some pretty reasonable growth on it. The sister to this one is this one, and again, if you have a look at the video, you'll see I made an absolute ridiculous error with it. Cut a branch off, I never should. But you know, we've got this, what's probably going to be some sort of clump or something like that. Yeah, for a year, it's definitely producing roots. I've got roots in the bottom of this, and overall I'm happy, and it's going to be interesting, and is certainly good potential for a bonsai, but not yet, because even though it's got a good set of roots growing in there, and when I potted this up again in a video, in fact, if you have a look in the description, there'll be a playlist that shows all of these Katsura maples. I think it'll be worth developing actually, so that'll be a good playlist. But I haven't had a chance to even look at stumps and stuff like this. The growth itself has been slow because it's its first year. Now some trees, when you put them into new pots, certainly airlayers, they can just say, look, I'm not doing anything for you for at least a year because I just need to get my breath and start again. Now I know some people who've got optimum conditions, optimum growing stuff, fertilising regime, a lot more experience than me, will probably get loads of growth in that first airlayer year. But I haven't. So we're already now 18 months into the progress of this, and this is one where I've put the airlayer in a good position. I'm still, I think, another 2 years before I'll take it out of this pond basket. I may take it out next year, and I've got to do a little bit of work now to try and just clean it up. It's not a quick process,
especially with someone like you.
Should we start working on some of these? Because I know that's what we really want to do. So what exactly can I do right now? It's the middle of summer. I'm desperate to be using my little fingers on this air layer, and I think that sort of links into the to this whole myth. Sometimes we've just got to leave them, and what I can do is I've certainly got quite a few frazzled leaves, and although I'm certainly not expecting another push or flush, I certainly won't put it beyond the realm of possibility. As I say, we're still in the second week of August. I could potentially get another flush from this maple, so I am going to remove a lot of the cooked leaves and just see if that encourages this perhaps to throw out another flush. We are going through quite a hot time, and it is likely that's quite conducive conditions for getting a late flush out and really getting it hardened off. What I will say is if I do get this second flush to come out, that's where having a cold frame or a greenhouse is absolutely beneficial, because if it starts to get a bit cooler, I can whack it into the greenhouse and give it that extra couple of weeks of heat to harden off whatever grows. So it is something to bear in mind. I still want to get good airflow and circulation coming through this. I mean, look, I've got some lovely green stuff here, and what I don't want is all my cooked leaves overlaying all my nice leaves. And again with this, it's the same, typical, it's a sort of what I call a semi-defoliation. I'll normally remove one of every leaf pair. And as I say, while you're doing things like this, it does give you the opportunity to just have a look and see if there are any little insects that you haven't noticed before. Very healthy on this side, Now, of course, the other thing is although I've got the soil quite high, because what I'm hoping to do is to induce some more roots from above the site where the airlayer was taken. And again, something from a growing bonsai video, thanks to Yella, talking about burying them just a little bit deeper to see if you can get the extra roots. It could be that I'll have it on a slab or something, very low-lying branches. To that point, am I in any way considering doing some major pruning on this now? No, because the major pruning, where I'm going to actually look at that and start pulling some branches back, will happen when the leaves actually fall, probably in this sort of November range time, in the middle of autumn. And again, often, you wonder why some parts of the tree, the leaves remain grey, remain nice and green and healthy, and that could be sometimes just as a result of the different quality of roots that are actually growing. So it may be a good sign that some of these roots aren't as healthy as we need them to be, or aren't as balanced. It's normally a good sign. It also might be an indication of whether this was facing the sun or was allowed to dry out a little bit. But again, down here I've actually got a little bud there, so that's quite good. It's interesting. I love the colour of the Katsura. It's almost a coral type bark. So get rid of any stubs of anything I see that I don't want. Quite a few burnt off leaves. And even though I said I don't do major pruning, I've got a junction here of 1 and 2. I'm actually going to remove that one now. And just keep going round. Definitely still need to deal with that though, so I will probably do a bit of carving on that. Okay, well, yeah, I definitely took a good 50% off. Probably a front, maybe looking in there. We've still got to build something here. What I had hoped was that from this stump here, where I inadvertently removed a branch when I did my first styling, when I took off the airlayer, I had hoped I'd get some shoots from there to create something up here, because there was a lovely branch up here, but alas, there isn't. So we're going to remove that. What I will say is that I took those leaves where you've got 3/4 of the leaf are in good nick. Nothing wrong with you just clipping the edges, the burnt bits off. The rest of that surface area of leaf is still going to do its job. I've also noticed, why I've taken a bit more off, is that I think we all recognise that if a tree has its leaves crisped off, that is the same as pruning. Their efficiency for photosynthesis is reduced, which triggers in the tree the back budding process. So if you're looking close, you'll actually see we've already got some buds starting to brighten up and go that lovely pink colour. Now, what I do need to do is start working away at this, and I'm quite happy to do that now. This is quite firm in there, and give it a good move about. I know there's lots of roots developing, so let's start moving some of this. Probably easiest way is to get a saw onto it, because how low it is on this, it's a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to see if I can actually nibble a load of that away. And with all things, nibbling is always difficult to show on the camera, so I'll come back to you when I finish my nibbling. In fact, this could be a good moment for you to go and get yourself some nibbles and come back when it's all ready to admire. Okay, well, I've nibbled that down a lot, and if I'd had my rotary tool, I would have used that, but for those of you who've seen me doing carving earlier in the year, you'll know that I broke it and I need to wait till Christmas to get another one. So I've got some of Adam of Notions Bonsai, his homemade putty, and I'm going to continue to use this. I find this extremely easy to use. Ideally you don't lick your fingers, you just use a bit of water just to spray this down. And the reason why you're doing that is because this stuff can get very sticky. And for those who haven't worked out, it's definitely the weekend, because we've had lawn mowers, now we've got I think we've got patio or bid cleaning going on, so I may stop for something to eat. Anyway, that is that. Thinned out. Wound has been healed over a bit. We've still got this wound here. It's not as obvious, I'm going to leave it for now. And there's one more thing I'll do to this before it goes to the shaded part of the garden, and that is to sprinkle a load of bone meal. And I do this around this time of the year over most of my trees, and I find that very beneficial for growth and development at this time of the year. I think it might be phosphate that's in it, and from bone obviously, and that's great for all the stuff you need for good photosynthesis and stuff. But yeah, just dig that in, and yeah, I found that's pretty good. Now this one is actually the leaf growth on it is actually a lot less affected by windburn, which one tells me roots are probably better, but also it could have just been a simple case of where it was located on the bench as to how much sun it actually got. What is always nice to be able to do is turn it over, and I've got little white roots down there, so definitely getting roots coming through the base. So all I need to do with this, again, I'll probably clip the edges off any scorched or burnt leaves, just really to neaten that up, remove any cooked leaves, and then thin this out with my usual partial defoliation. Okay, well there's been a few issues with this, not to do with the growth or anything, but just the way branches are bending back in on themselves. So I have actually removed a few of those. I'm trying, it's always difficult when something's horizontal to imagine how it's going to look with a cascade. So I've got this sort of probably about 50% of the foliage off again, trying to get an idea of a cascade pad here, something here, but we've actually got an issue where we've got branches growing off this way and back inside, so I've actually removed a lot of those, and that is work probably I would normally do in the autumn when I've got a better idea of seeing it. What I'm hoping is that's going to give me some more buds in more advantageous positions. I mean, hopefully this can give you an idea of the main direction of the cascade. So these are cascading in pretty well the right direction, but we've got here stuff that was growing off and actually was growing back into this way, and so I've removed stuff that's grown right around there. It's a slow process. I may have to remove more stuff here and just slowly grow out stuff and take it further back, but as I say, I'll look again and see what happens over the next 3 months. So that's about it for now, and all thinned out, be able to get lots of light and goodness in there, and hopefully in another few more months we'll have seen some budding coming out, and this will look a lot more healthy. Got some soaring going on as well, so definitely it's time to fill my tub. I think it's about 1:30 now. I've been at it 2.5 hours. Right, well, I'm just back from my peanut butter on toast, and I watched a fantastic episode from Dave's Bonsai of his bonsai acres. Got a massive big blister in his hand trying to clear out that massive great land. If you haven't watched Dave's Bonsai, and I'm sure you must, anyone who watches me must see Dave. I think he's almost the American version of me, but he knows more about what he's doing. So yeah, I'll put a link to the one I watched up there. It's interesting, full of all sorts of stuff. Anyway, that's not getting this thing done. Do you know what? It is exactly that. It's a challenge. I had a lot of people who said to me, cut right down, regrow branches from right low down. And do you know what? If this all goes wrong, hey, put me back a few years and I'll probably do that. What I'm going to do though is I've looked and I've actually got some interesting branch structures bringing it down, and I'm thinking initially, can I create a mini crown here on a second trunk that comes across, and then cut this down and do the same thing here and have almost 2 layers. It's going to take a few years to do it. I think that's going to be my first move. Yes, there is definitely an option that if I cut right down here, maybe a V-cut, I could grow 2 new branches over several years, thicken them up, and that would certainly be interesting. But I do want to work with the material I've got, so the first thing is going to be find the appropriate place to cut here. This one's easy. Actually, I really think this is very easy because I'm going to use this junction here. Because the reason why I'm saying that is because there's absolutely no taper in this branch going up there. Although we have potentially got something decent there. So there's a whole conglomeration of stuff here. Let's let's just bite the bullet and go for it, shall we? In the end, materials cost me nothing. And anyone who watched my video about making sure you airlayer in the right place will know that I was talking about potentially taking more airlayers off this next year. But again, I just want to get moving forward with this, because that is one of the disadvantages with doing airlayers on airlayers. Again, you're putting stuff further and further refined. I wouldn't want to do an airlayer on this until I was happy that I had a really strong root structure. What I am going to do is a very, very interesting bit of movement there. I am just going to try a straightforward semi-hardwood, I don't know, and see how I get on with this. I guarantee it won't work. That's being what they call when you're greedy with your cuttings. But hey, let's find out, shall we? With this one I will definitely protect it, put it in a nice container, possibly a plastic bag, and hey, I'll show you the dead bit somewhere around bonfire night. Okay, had a bit of fun, took the tops off. I think you get the idea what I'm trying to do. All I'm going to do now, cut some of these back to more realistic shoots, I suppose. Quite like all that's up there. Again, I've got junctions I can thin out, semi-defoliation again, and also it gives me a chance to just start to get a feel of the sort of branch structure that is possible potentially with this. So all of these things where the shoots have extended to 2 or 3, I'm actually going to take out the recent extensions. I mean, if you look at that now, flat pad there, grow this one here. What I want is a tight set of growth covering the fact that we've got a really heavy stump for now. There's going to be a pyramid type form on that. So I've just got this scene. I think it could look really nice, I really do. So I'm just going to decide, I think for now, up here, just take that one off. So my idea is everything below there, that is going to be the line that you actually see then with foliage coming over, quite tight foliage, dense. That's what I'm looking at. I think that'll work for this. Okay, well look, there it is. I think the front may be around here. I've actually taken off a great length that went right across because I actually want the growth to come out this way. So say that'll be one pad, the little dip, and then higher one up here. It's definitely a work in progress, but it's great fun. So let's bring ourselves back to this one. This is one I always said had the most prospects for making a good bonsai early on. We still have this thing with the branch here, but I'll cut that part out and basically do exactly what I've just done on the first 2 you've seen. So let me crack on with that. I'll come back when it's done. So there we go, all nicely thinned out, and I think it is definitely a case of I'm not pruning necessarily for back budding, just thinning it out to define the branches or the secondary growth that I actually want to develop. He's still doing his soaring.
Maybe more interesting than what you have to say.
Ultimately, again, there's going to be something grown over here, and as it starts to ramify over the next few years, it's going to look wonderful. I know it is. I know there'll be some people who say, oh, you could get rid of that perhaps, but I think probably the biggest thing that's likely to happen is there's quite a long gap here where there's nothing. I think in the autumn I may well cut that right back and see if I can get buds formed closer down there. This probably fits into the category of impossible bonsai. This is the classic example of putting an airlayer in a completely inappropriate place. Horrible bit here which needs to be cleaned up. I'm really not sure. So what I'm going to do is just cut back some of the upper foliage and then we'll come back and have a look at it again. But I've got absolutely no idea on this one. So get your thinking caps on. This is a bit of a teaser for you. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that was easy in any way, shape or form. I've cut everything down to what I believe could be usable branches up there, and I don't know whether there's a place for some sort of bizarre structure like this. It could be that this gets cut right back down. I don't really want to take any air layers off it, so ultimately if it's not going to work, I may end up growing it as a proper garden tree with an odd lump or something, but this is what we've got. Yeah, I don't know. There may be an angle that sort of sits in like that or something. Depends how the stuff grows. You know, sometimes, and I've said it time and time again, sometimes you can have some really bizarro type stuff going on in a tree.
How bizarro is that?
But if you can create the twigginess and the tertiary branching and make that look developed and refined, then sometimes the two, although they oppose each other with the bonsai style, can actually work. At the moment, this is a big the impossible bonsai. But if anyone sees anything, then yeah, whack it down in the comments. Definitely. That's what comments are for. Well, what I thought was going to be short, sweet and succinct has basically taken me all afternoon and has turned into a bit of a labour, to be honest. Look, you've got to see me doing some ongoing development with my airlayers, and though you may feel you've been drawn in with this myth buster, which is basically saying, hey, bonsai takes a very, very long time, even airlayers. But I thought it was an interesting way to approach this, and you know, I'm the first one to put my hand up and say, I must be honest, I did think that when you get an air layer, then all these roots come out and then you just plant it, and you know, within a year or two you've got a tree. Not quite true, unless you know exactly what you're doing and you've got the right conditions, you've got the right soil, the air layer takes properly. There's so much that goes into it. Anyway, I just thought I'd share something with you. In fact, share, that's a good word. If you enjoyed this, please, I do ask you humbly to share and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hopefully, when I'm recording this, it's sort of second week in August, I've got about 40 subscribers left to go to get 5,000. That's a mammoth achievement for me. Under 3 years, I'm absolutely ecstatic, and that's all down to you guys. Thank you very much. You gals and guys. Can I say that? I don't know. But before I do go, I'm going to give you a bit of a spoiler as to the pot this is going to go into next year. It's another Dawn Isaac ceramic. Surprise, surprise. This absolutely disgusting excuse for a hawthorn just got gnawed, and I'm hoping that if I put that in there, probably can't see it that well, but I think that will sit in there perfectly. That's something to look forward to next year in 2025. So please, as I say again, make sure you've hit those notifications. You do not want to miss it. Anyway, I've had a bit of a ball doing this because I wasn't planning on doing this in the first place. Hopefully you've got absolutely something out of this. If it's done anything at all, then it's filled probably 25 minutes of your day. I ain't wasting no more time. But apart from that, as we head on towards the latter stages of August, and definitely coming to the end of my pruning spree. In fact, I'm looking at some junipers down here, so I fear that junipers are coming our way. I'll say thanks very much for listening, thanks for watching, thanks for all the support, and you know what? Give yourselves a big clap. I mean that. All the best, happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers. Oh, I forgot my thumb.